Oh, you didn't know? Well, you better call somebody. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, Front Row Material proudly brings to you the hottest podcast tandem in the world, the real deal Ritt, the Rockstar Renegade, 6 degrees of Ritt and Renegade.
And if you're not down with that, I've got 5 words for you. Let's get ready to ramble!
Oh my goodness, this is by far the worst time I've ever had doing this entrance. But what's going on, Renegade? How you doing?
I am doing, my man. I'm back. First day back to work after vacation. It's like I never left.
Your bosses don't watch this, do they?
I hope not.
Because if they do, they're going to be offended. How's your ass feel? Because they must have been kissing your ass since you came back to work today.
Yeah, a little bit. All telling me, well, 2 of the 3 of them were over there this morning. Well, hey, we'll be here to help you. Oh, because my coworker's got a bum shoulder right now and he needs surgery. And he's the only help I have. So they're all,
So apparently you're doing it by yourself.
Basically.
But man, Renegade, New Year. I ended it with you last week on. No, I didn't end it with you on last week. You cover my ass quicker than freaking a pair of pants when it's cold out.
Roughly. It's more like putting a piece of a screen door over a bleeding wound. But hey, I did the best I could.
Hey, but no, it was great. You guys did fantastic.
Appreciate it.
Hey, Crush was a great little topic. A little odd one, Love hearing the underrated ones.
Not somebody you think about too often.
No. And should have called in Steven in the RTC last week. Hey, well,
it was something else, man.
We're still on Twitter. So we're still on Twitch. And we're still on YouTube. So
for now.
Hey.
For now, I don't know. Once they get through to reviewing that video, they might there might be a van pull up out front of my house. I might get dragged outside, tased a little bit.
Hey, but the good part is this week on Call to Beardo, we get a second round when we're going to be discussing the career of Nancy Benoit. Nancy Sullivan, a.k.a. Woman, oh woman, won't you marry me now? I can't wait for that one.
I can't wait till I'm dropped down in a hole of YouTube headquarters where they're like, it puts the lotion on its skin or it gets the hose again. Oh, like, I didn't mean it, man. It's just double doinking. Like, what's your problem?
Double doinking. Good Lord. Speaking of double doinking, man, another great week lined up for the Front Row Material brand. Tomorrow, we got a former Ring of Honor star, the Mecca. We'll be cruising on into FRM Pod. Like I said on Cult of Beardo on Thursday, we're going to be discussing the career of Nancy Benoit, Nancy Sullivan, a.k.a. once again, Woman, oh woman, won't you marry me now? And then Friday, on Future Stars Now, we are discussing and talking with indie star Vinny Pacifico. So you guys don't want to miss those ones. But man, head on over to YouTube, search Front Row Material, hit the follow button. We had a great interview last week that's up right now. Angelina Love from The Beautiful People. Renegade, did you get to check any of that out?
I did catch some of that. It was pretty good from what I saw.
Man,
Also, like the prospects that it sounds like she may be interested in coming back again. So
oh
that's always
yes,
good.
yes, and she might not be alone. Whew. Damn. But man, can't wait. So Renegade, one more plug.
You ought to ask Mecca if there's a finishing move in the repertoire called Mecha Leka High. I mean, I would suggest that.
I'm gonna definitely my plan is to set Freeland up for failure. So he does all of his interviews in character, and I'm gonna set him up easy.
There you go.
But guys, you know you want that 6 degrees of Ritt and Renegade shirt. What? A little cold out? Try a hoodie. Man, head on over to brainbustertees.com /other/front-row-material/ get that merchandise. Guys.
I actually just bought myself a hoodie.
No, you didn't. Stop playing.
I did. I just
Renegade,
ordered it before the show.
Renegade, I still haven't had nobody win the contest. I had a contest. You sit there and take a screenshot of the receipt, and you get a free FRM T-shirt.
Oh, and no one yet, huh?
No one yet. I cannot believe. You know, if you sit there and think, Mikey, God damn, Mikey Whipwreck's in the house. But man,
dude,
how you been, Mikey? Long time no see. We love you and you miss you. But man, you sit there and think, you go on the Brainbuster Tees. You pay $3 for a sticker and send me the thing and send me the receipt. You get a $20 shirt free. Now that's a steal. But Renegade, speaking of steals, our topic tonight as we go down that great rabbit hole. Great title reigns in wrestling history. We've had some great title reigns. Yeah, Mikey, I know he's tried peddling this shit for years. But man, I've got to do what he can't do. If I can get people to actually buy this shit, unlike him mooching the shit, then hey, I'm one up on him. So, but man, great title reigns. You know, we've had some title reigns that are the longevity is there, but sometimes the opponents aren't there for them, and it makes the title reign questionable. What do you think, Renegade?
I mean, you're only as good as your opposition, right? A hero is only as good as his villains. If your villains are weak, your hero doesn't look that strong. So if your opposition isn't very good, then your title reign looks weak. You know, you might be a talented competitor, but if you got a weak list of opponents, you know, people who can't carry their own weight, you know, I would question how great your title reign was. Not questioning their ability, but questioning, you know, the run that they had. If people say, it's the greatest ever, yep, you have to prove it on paper, you know, or prove it in the actual, matches themselves. But this certainly was a difficult one, and I almost feel like I needed like 3 months just to dig into a lot of this stuff. But there were, like you mentioned, a handful of people. If you go back to the 70s and early 80s, you had guys with title reigns that lasted, 2-3 years.
Bob Backlund, Bruno Sammartino. But but then if you break down the opponents they had, the quality of wrestler, sellouts or not, that then you got to look at the brass tacks of everything. Right. Flair when he was the traveling champ for NWA, he had some great title reigns, but it's because when he went to a new territory, they fed him their top guy. Sold out everywhere, nowadays, you look at a long title reign like a Roman Reigns. We're going to talk about Roman Reigns. 2 years unbeaten, but the amount of opponents that he's had isn't really that great. You have
it's not
a lot of upper mid carders that they're
Yeah.
trying to push to that main event level.
But they only do it for till his match is over, and then they're relegated back down the card again. It's sort of the treatment of the opponent, right? So you take his match with Cesaro. You and I were highly anticipating that match. Here's Cesaro's big chance against the champion. We knew he was going to put on a good match, and it was a good match. But it was the treatment of Cesaro that really negated the importance of that match, because as soon as it was over, he's knocked right back down to irrelevance again.
Exactly.
So now it takes that moment and pretty much washes it away because it wasn't that important. It's almost like he was just spoon-fed Cesaro, and okay, here's another win for you, and then off you go.
Oh, and it was like that, overall for a lot of his opponents. There were some smaller opponents in there. A Rey Mysterio, big name, but really didn't mean nothing to Roman. They tried to give him a Sami Zayn, nothing really happened. An Xavier Woods, after he won King of the Ring, nothing, came of that. Now they tried to make bigger names out of it. The John Cena's, he came back, but it's just the title run is tarnished overall. And I don't see him, he can beat anybody, but I don't see, that making that title run mean anything anymore.
Right. It's part of the problem that they've had for the last 10 years or more.
Mm-hmm.
That you don't have a big enough stars. You don't keep them relevant enough. Okay, so Cesaro loses, but maybe throw him into. They just right after that they just fed him to Seth Rollins, so Seth Rollins could get a big win, and then they dropped Cesaro off. But Cesaro, if he would have lost that match to Roman, but stayed kind of built up, how they were doing this big build with him leading up to that match, where he was winning all his matches, he was beating some guys, and then all of a sudden, he had some steam going into Roman. But as soon as that match was over, all right, you're done. But if they kept him up there beating, if he went right back into that feud with Rollins, but beats Rollins in a way that kind of makes Rollins look good as well, so when he goes on to his next thing, and then you can kind of keep Cesaro relevant enough to say, let's have a rematch with Roman. We can go back to this again. They didn't, and they were never. It's almost like they never had a plan to use Cesaro for anything other than, all right, here's a gimmick segment where you're throwing pumpkin pies at each other or something. I don't know. Things like that. I hate their usage of people, how they don't build up competition to make them look strong enough where they're any kind of a threat to him. Nobody's a threat to him.
Yeah, Mikey makes a good point. Nobody's fresh. You're doing the same storylines over and over again. Jersey Devil, main event fodder. Now let's take a step back. Let's look at some of the other title reigns. Let's go Hogan. Let's go Hogan 80s, where they fed him, repeatedly year after year. King Kong Bundy, Andre, the Big Boss Man, Jake the Snake, and they were feeding him, but these were, this was the 80s. So Hogan was that superhero character. So like Jersey Devil just pointed out, they fed him big monster heels, Kamala. And then, so it made the title run believable to a point where, okay, now all of a sudden, maybe this guy can beat him. You know, Hogan might have beat King Kong Bundy, but can he beat Andre? You know what I mean? They kept upping the ante with Hogan, and that made his title run, in my opinion, really well in the 80s because he kept feeding him those big stars. You know, he went from Piper to in WrestleMania 1, ultimate heel, great talker on the mic, and early WWF at the time, Piper was to the Joker and Hogan was Batman. You couldn't have the one without the other. Then they kept feeding people all the way to WrestleMania 2. They climaxed it with King Kong Bundy. WrestleMania 3, we're going to climax the whole year with Andre. They kept upping the ante each time, which made Hogan, you know, larger than life in his title reign.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, but I don't know, thinking back then, if I ever believed Hogan was going to lose. I didn't, until his matches with Macho Man and the Ultimate Warrior, I don't know that anybody was a legitimate, oh, this guy can take the belt from Hogan. Yeah, they were big guys. Bundy was huge. Andre was huge. But I think you just believed, well, Hogan's going to win. And then it wasn't as big of a problem as it was when you're like, oh, Cena's going to win. You know? But I could see how, like the age I was when Hogan was doing that, how kids now would look at Cena and go, he's the superhero to them. So,
Mikey says his 5-year-old son's been watching WWF weekly shows from '87. Mikey he loves watching and going to bed to the older stuff. He isn't jaded on current wrestling and doesn't understand the concept is fake, so he thinks it's great. Loves squash matches. I kind of missed those back in the day. You had a lot of squash matches that led up to something big. And then Mikey says when he saw Piper versus Adonis, he was so excited to see two top guys wrestle each other. And that's something I kind of do miss. Like, you have the squash matches, and then all of a sudden, when two names face each other, it's a big deal. And you don't sit there and go through the storylines as quick as you do now. Could you imagine with the roster that they had in the late 90s, early 2000s for WWE? And all of a sudden, they did squash matches, and then they gradually put in name versus names with the roster they had at that time, which I think by far might have been the greatest roster ever assembled. All of a sudden, you can sit there and stretch out these storylines, and you can have those, oh man, I wish such and such would face such and such,
Yeah, where you can see the path of these two guys. They're obviously heading on a collision course together, and it's like, I can't wait to see that. I know Drew McIntyre's been recently in the title hunt when he was on Raw. What I would like to see is don't throw him in immediately, right? Start building him up one way, have Roman doing his thing until you're eventually like, a few months maybe down the road. All right, these guys are gonna collide. Because you really don't have anybody else, and that's the shame of it. He's the obvious choice, I think, outside of Brock or bringing back The Rock, of having that big money match for SmackDown. But it's the shame of not having the plethora of stars that they've had in the past.
Yeah. Now let's sit there and I know how much of a big John Cena fan you are.
Oh
But
yeah.
let's take a look at his United States title run that he had there, where he did the open challenges. Well, what did you think about that? You know, the amount of people and the talent that they were given shots at.
As huge of a Cena fan that I am, those matches honestly were great. Um, Now, you and I think, are both in agreement that his opponents made him look way better than he actually is.
Yes.
But those matches were fantastic. I actually liked that run that he had with the U.S. title, where he was giving those guys chances to prove themselves and to show what they can do, against one of the top guys. And it only proved, I think, what everybody believed in those guys was right, and in that Cesaro is a main event talent. Rusev was a main event talent. Sheamus is a main event talent.
Didn't he even face Ziggler?
I think so. I don't remember every single opponent that he did had during that time. I just remember those matches were great. Uh, they were great match moments on the shows, and probably even some of the more memorable moments during those shows. But it was a great run. He made that title feel relevant again. Uh, but unfortunately, he goes on to great things, and the rest of them kind of fall by the wayside. So it almost was not worth doing. It was worth it in the moment because he's putting eyes on these guys and letting them shine. But beyond that match, nothing happened. Cesaro didn't skyrocket to the top. Rusev, we all know what happened there. Um, Sheamus gets thrown in the tag scene for a while. None of those guys really. It didn't propel anybody. So it almost didn't do any good.
Yeah. It kind of, at the time, it kind of made the title relevant again.
Right.
You know, kind of like one of my favorite title runs, which was one of the funniest title runs, but it was memorable. That'd be my man Santino Marella when he had the Intercontinental title and proclaiming he's going to beat the Honky Tonk Man's reign with the Honkometer. Every time he came out, you expected him to sit there and win. You wanted him to win because of how he built everything up.
I miss Santino. As far as comedy segments in wrestling goes, I honestly think he was the best. He was. I usually dislike most of the comedy segments that they try to do. Most of them aren't funny, but yeah, Santino was great. Santino was, I look forward to him coming out. He had that walk or strut or whatever that he did.
The eyebrows.
Yep. Yep. The way they would talk, the Manimo Bautista. He was great.
Man, I loved it. Do you remember the face-off in the Royal Rumble with Mick Foley?
I don't.
Where they were fighting and then they both turned around and they both went, like, Santino went for Cobra and Mick went for the sock and they turned around and they were going both hit each other and then they stopped. Man, you don't see stuff like that. You don't see the last time I remember a moment like that would had to have been when Edge and Christian were in the Royal Rumble together and they hugged. Like, it's kind of one of those feel good moments that was great.
Yeah, it doesn't happen too often. But yeah, Santino, I miss that guy. I kind of wish they would bring him back in some kind of, he could be a commissioner or general manager or whatever they call him now, something like that. Or maybe even like a co-general manager where you can have a kind of a comedy segment and kind of keep him around a little bit.
Yeah, well, I know the Intercontinental title is your favorite title of all time. So, what are some great title reigns with the Intercontinental title that you remember?
Well, one of my favorites was when Razor Ramon was the Intercontinental Champion. That was that, and the big feud between Shawn Michaels and Razor Ramon for the Intercontinental title. Shawn comes back. He was unbeaten as the Intercontinental champion, but he had to drop the title. Scott Hall or Razor Ramon became the Intercontinental champion at that time, and that leads into the ladder match at WrestleMania.
And that's one of the most memorable WrestleMania moments. It's got to be. It's got to be top 10, top 15.
Oh yeah, early mid '90s. Razor Ramon was my guy. So when he had the Intercontinental title, that was pretty awesome. I do like the days back when Warrior had it. He won it from Honky Tonk Man, and then had that feud with Rude. So yeah, there's some good stuff there. Yeah, I always loved the Intercontinental title, and like I said before, the white Intercontinental title that's my favorite title belt. But someday I would love to have that one, but those things are so doggone expensive.
Yeah, you sit there and think, right? His wait, I'm trying to think. Warrior, after Honky Tonk Man, did you sit? Was that when he went up against Rude?
Yeah, he had a big feud with Ravishing Rick Rude there a lot for the Intercontinental title.
Yeah, man, Ravishing Rick Rude. I just loved his overall gimmick and how he got into people's minds. Like, if you think about it, man, Rick Rude, what was it? He had Warrior's, face on his tights. When he had that match and feud with Macho Man, well, didn't he have him and Elizabeth's face on his trunks?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, Jake the Snake was another one he had on there.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, man, like Rick Rude, solid wrestler. I'd give him a B+, A- on the mic. But the psychology, you really took it to another level.
Absolutely. Yeah, he was. He's one of those guys you look at and you say, man, what a shame that he didn't have a run with the title. You never always know the full story of why certain guys get pushes, why certain guys don't. But he's one of those guys I look at him and Scott Hall. Why have they never had a run as champion? I'll never understand that. But I mean, things are the way they are, and certain guys are looked at in certain ways. So I almost think if the Triple H or the curtain call never happens, Triple H doesn't get punished, Austin never wins that King in the Ring and goes on to greatness. I feel like before that, Austin was looked at as what they call a mechanic. Like, he's going to go in and make the other guy look great, have these great matches with guys, but he's going to get overlooked a lot. And until that thing happened, it's like, and then you really saw what they had in him, changed the game. But I almost feel like he might have been relegated to just being, the work guy of like, all right, we're going to put you in with Austin, and you're going to get bumped up, and we'll give the next guy to Austin. I almost wonder if he would have just been relegated to that role.
Yeah, kind of like the gatekeeper, because I think Hall, if Hall would have re-signed, he might have gotten that next push.
It's possible.
Jersey Devil's cutting one of those great promos. Renegade, take it home with this one.
All right. What I'd like to have right now is for all you fat, lazy, out of shape Kansas City sweat hogs, keep the noise down while I take off my robe and show the ladies what a real man looks like. Hit the music.
Man, I loved that. And then he had Bobby the Brain with him. And Bobby was just great.
Yeah.
What
Should have
was
had the
it?
title. He should have had the title, man. He should have had a run.
Did Bobby ever manage anybody that had the world title?
Oh man, I always feel like he was always with those mid card guys, the big, like the good mid card guys, like him, Perfect. I always feel like he was with those guys, but never really top champion guys, which is also a head scratcher. When he was with Andre, I don't think Andre was the champion. I could be wrong, but
Uh, was he managing him when he went and gave the title to DiBiase? I think he might have a little bit later, like a little bit after. No, wait. He had to have been. Because Bobby the Brain was out there with Hogan when Andre, and he's like, "What are you doing with him, brother?" When Andre on was it Piper's Pit or the
is that where he rips
Yep,
the
yep.
shirt and the chain off?
Yep.
Yep.
So
I actually in digging for this, because we talked very briefly about this, and I still feel like I wasn't entirely sure what direction we were going with this. But in my digging, I was like, who really had a great? And I'm thinking more world title, not so. We brought up the U.S. title, the Intercontinental title, and like I said, I feel like I needed 3 months just to really dig into all of this. But I thought in my mind, is like, who really had, it felt like an underrated title run or a time at the top, right? So the person I dug up, this wasn't like a win the title till they lose a title run. It was kind of like a 2-3 year span of them being the guy. And I was looking down through the roster of the title defenses that they had during this time, and I was like, you know what? Why this is really underrated, and I think it's possibly overlooked because of the way the business was at the time this person was champion, and business wasn't doing the greatest, so they kind of maybe blamed their run or their time at the top for this. But I think, like, if you look at the list of people they faced during their time, you're like, this is a pretty great run here, and it was for 96 to 98 as Shawn Michaels was champion.
Well, was that when he was going up against like Vader, Mankind, Sid?
So I have it all mapped out here. So he wins the title WrestleMania 96 from Bret Hart, right? Big Iron Man match. He defends later on against Diesel, Hunter Hearst Helmsley. So this isn't like the game Triple H, but Hunter Hearst Helmsley, the British Bulldog, Owen Hart.
That British Bulldog feud was great.
Yes, yeah, that was a great storyline. So Owen Hart, Yokozuna, Marty Jannetty, Steve Austin. Obviously, this is earlier runs. Steve Austin.
Was that Ringmaster Steve Austin?
It may have been like towards the tail end of the Ringmaster Steve Austin. Diesel again. He faced the British Bulldog again. Goldust, Vader. He had a little brief feud with Goldust. 2 back-to-back pay-per-view matches. Mankind. And then he would lose at Survivor Series to Sid. 2 months later, beats Sid for the title.
And that was a 4-way, wasn't it?
The Survivor Series? No, yeah. I think that was the one-on-one against Sid. He was distracted. I think he was distracted by Jose. I think got hit or something during that match. Sean was distracted.
The camera.
Yeah. And then so Sean loses. 2 months later, beats Sid back for it again. So now we're in Royal Rumble 97, the beginning of 97. And then he faced Mankind again. Has a triple threat match with Bret and Sid. I don't know what that was on, though, but that was one of his title defenses. And then he drops the belt because where he forfeits the title because he says he's going to retire, has a knee injury. They claim he didn't want to drop the title to Bret. In this time, he does have his knee surgery, comes back, and in that time period he wins the tag titles with Steve Austin, and then I think drops those, wins the belt back from Bret Hart at the Survivor Series '97 in the Montreal Screwjob, has a title defense against Ken Shamrock. We go into '98. He has the casket match against The Undertaker, and then loses the title to Steve Austin. Also during that time in '97, you have the first ever Hell in a Cell match with The Undertaker. And as I mentioned, he won the tag titles with Stone Cold. So I mean, from '96 to '98, I mean, what a run! That's quite an impressive list of opponents. Even if some of them were kind of like earlier, like early like huge Stone Cold Steve Austin and early Hunter Hearst Helmsley, but I would say that's quite an impressive list of opponents during a title run. So I feel like it's very underrated and not as appreciated because, like I said, the business wasn't really booming at the time, and I think people blamed him for not carrying the ball. But I mean, he had great matches. I don't really know what more he could have done to help them out.
Yeah, if you look at that title run, I would say it was very good because he didn't wrestle just one type of person. He wrestled a little hardcore, a little street fightish. He wrestled big men. He wrestled agile ones. He wrestled technical wrestlers. Unorthodox one. He had a great, span and variety of wrestlers, and he did very well, in my opinion, for who he was given and thrown at.
Right. I mean, they were all really good matches. I was looking at previously to the run Bret Hart had before that, and I saw a lot of matches against Owen. And on the onset, there's nothing wrong with that. Those are amazing matches. I'd watch that for a year straight. But there wasn't a lot of variety in there. So I even checked out to see what Sting's title reigns were like back in WCW or early NWA, or earlier in his career NWA. And I was shocked to see that he would win the title, but then turn around and lose it right away. And it wasn't like a long stretch where Sting was the champion. It was he would win it, then lose it to Ric Flair, and then he'd beat Ric Flair back for it, and then lose it to somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
And then so it was a lot of quick title changes there. So I was really struggling to see who had really good long-term title runs, and I think past the '80s, a lot of guys would only have it for a handful of months, and then pass it on.
Well, look at The Rock. The Rock really never had a solid long title run.
No,
Stone,
he was
Stone Cold's another one that never really had that long, title run.
right.
So you go on WCW side, Goldberg had a decent title run. He beat Hogan. Then he wrestled like DDP. I think Scott Hall. So he had a decent title run over in WCW before he got cattle prodded and
Yeah.
But the tag team title runs, I'm gonna have to throw out the New Age Outlaws. Their title reign was the APA, Chainsaw Charlie and Cactus Jack. So,
well, you would almost have to go back to the '90s and beyond that to really have a good, solid roster of tag teams. You get into the 2000s and stuff, and it was just you almost felt like the appreciation for tag wrestling just dropped off. There haven't been a lot of tag teams, and most of the tag teams that they would push were two guys thrown together, like a Jericho Big Show or something. You know, they would take two singles competitors, big names, throw them together, run through the tag division, and then win the titles.
Well, you sit there and think in the late early 90s, Money Incorporated, two guys thrown together, but they had a nice title run because they faced Earthquake and Typhoon, the Steiners, the Head Shrinkers. Back then they had buku tag teams, the Nasty Boys. And then they eventually lost them to the Legion of Doom. But that was a great tag team run because of the fact they had so many people on to be able to line up and make great memorabilia and matches for it. Jersey Devil saying a lot of improvement and makeshift teams, but I love the tag title run of Paul London and Brian Kendrick. Great matches with Eminem. That was the SmackDown brand. Those matches were great. Then Eminem went on to go against the Hardys. It was great. Batista, Rey Mysterio, Edge and Rey Mysterio. Man, I still say that SmackDown brand when Paul Heyman was in charge of creative. That was head and shoulders above Raw every week. And JBL, the longest reigning champion in SmackDown history. I loved him. Look at his title run. Eddie, Undertaker. It was great. Rey Mysterio. Do you remember JBL's title run on SmackDown, champ?
I do, to a degree. I mean, I wasn't a huge SmackDown watcher. I started in the early days when Raw started, and I loved Raw. And for some reason, I just could never get into SmackDown. It was hard for me to tune in every week, but I do remember that him having the title for quite a while, and yeah, he had some great opponents to go through, and that big feud with Cena. So yeah, I mean, it was a pretty impressive run in itself.
That whole title run, the one that really sticks out in my mind is those bloodbaths with Eddie. The bull rope match, the steel cage match, like that whole title run he had, made him, and he carried SmackDown. Of course, Eric Bischoff always sit there and said that the only reason JBL was champion is because Triple H didn't want to work Tuesday nights. So,
I mean, maybe there's some truth to that.
Possibly. Well, what about Triple H? Did he have any title runs you really thought that stuck out to you?
Not that stick out. Not that I'm sitting here like there's anything like, oh yeah, I remember that one year nothing that really jumps to memory, and it's something I'll have to kind of revisit and look at again. But
Jersey Devil corrects me. It was Paul Heyman at One Night Stand telling JBL, the only reason you're a world champ for a year is because Triple H didn't want to work Tuesdays. Man.
Yeah, hey. I said there might be a little truth to that.
Yeah. But so we've talked a lot about guys, the male talent. How about some female title runs?
I sort of feel like the easy answer to this is going to be every answer is going to be Charlotte, because they don't really give and I'd have to go in recent memory. I'd have to go back to like maybe a Trish Stratus title run or something.
I've kind of liked me a Michelle McCool when she was in with Lay Cool. You know, Beth Phoenix, Alicia Fox, you know, Natty. There was a nice little title run she had there. Longest reigning Divas champ.
Yeah. You know, female wrestling wasn't what it is now then. I mean, don't get me wrong, some of them were very talented. They were still in that world of hiring models versus, you know, actual professional wrestlers. Um, but some of them really rose to the top, and you saw that they actually had some really good ability. And
Alicia Fox. I think she might be
very underrated.
She might be possibly the most underrated woman talent of all time.
Yeah, I agree. She's another one of those ones. Now maybe there was some. You always have to go. Was there backstage issues? But why? You know why her and Natty? Like Natty should be, you know, up there with Charlotte, and they don't really. I don't think they ever really viewed Natty as a top competitor. You know, main event material in the even the women's division. And yeah, Alicia Fox I thought was fantastic and very underutilized and underappreciated in her abilities.
So yeah, Jersey Devil. Let's throw a little shout back to our man Crash Holly when he made the Hardcore Championship 24/7, and man, it was great. Like, you sit there, and I remember it was ridiculous how but it was great. It wasn't ridiculously like stupid. It was funny, just because of how they were sitting there and showed clips of, you know, what happened earlier, and Crash Holly would be at, like, you know, an amusement park, and he would get, and all of a sudden, you know, he would be someone trying to pin him in the ball pit or something, and it's like, man, that stuff's funny. In a hotel room, like.
So the hardcore 24/7 thing was much more entertaining then when Crash Holly had it than what they do with the 24/7 title now. It's pretty pathetic what they do with it now, and it's like, don't even show this anymore. Just get rid of that title.
Yeah, it's an embarrassment really nowadays compared to before, and I love how it came about, you know, with Mick Foley becoming the first ever hardcore champion. You know, it was an old WWE title that was broken up, and, you know, it was great. Now it's just like, here, and excuse me, and everybody has had it. Gronkowski's had it. Speaking of Gronkowski, man, I love how somebody sit there on Twitter from ESPN posted that this is the whole Antonio Brown incident yesterday was a ploy that Vince McMahon is setting up Antonio Brown, Rob Gronkowski, WrestleMania. Like this is an ESPN guy putting this out there.
Well, it's certainly more entertaining than the thought of, well, the team's just trying to withhold money from him, or they wanted to bench him, or he didn't want to go on the field. And set it up, man. Gronk versus AB. I'm there for it.
I sit there and Gronk has the experience, but I think Antonio might be able to sneak it out. But then again, I bet you the Vegas odds, I already know what they are. 3-1. Gronk wins by count out because Antonio Brown walks away.
Well, that's the thing with AB. He's more unpredictable than Gronk. With Gronk, you know what you're getting. AB, you're not sure what's going to happen. So yeah, there's a lot of intrigue there. I'd sign up for that. Just watch the chaos.
Yes. So, but Renegade, we're gonna sit there and we're gonna go to a quick rundown. I'm gonna sit there and rapid fire title reigns. You sit there and say yay or nay. Okay? Let's start it off with Hollywood Hogan's NWO World Title reign.
Oh, there's a lot of hokey stuff that happened in there. I'm gonna say nay.
Okay. Let's sit there and say D'Lo Brown's European title reign.
Nay.
Nay? Let's see here. The Rock's corporate title reign.
Yay.
Yay?
Yeah.
Memorable match with Mankind?
Oh yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of great stuff there with The Rock and the corporate stuff. It was an entertaining time.
Yes. Let's sit there and say Macho Man's title reign after beating Hogan.
Nay, unfortunately. I don't remember him fighting anyone of importance. Sadly.
Ric Flair's WWF title run after the Royal Rumble win.
Nay.
Nay?
Although I do remember, was there a time then when he was cutting a promo at a poolside about Elizabeth?
Yep.
Macho Man?
Yep.
Ah, man, I remember that like it happened yesterday.
Jersey Devil's going to throw it out there. Kurt Angle's Eurocontinental reign, when he had both European and Intercontinental title reigns.
Yeah, it's Kurt Angle. I'll say yay. He makes anything great.
Let's see here. The APA's tag title reign after they won it from Billy and Chuck at WrestleMania in a 4-way.
I'll give you yay there. I mean, there were still some good tag teams when they were there, when they were going through that. So, yeah, I'll say yay.
Let's go. Chris Jericho's undisputed title reign.
You know, unfortunately, and somebody may throw some info out there to kind of point me in a different viewpoint of this, but I remember more of him talking about winning than who he faced after that. I just remember him more or less rubbing it in. I beat Austin and Rock in the same night. That's all I remember, honestly. I don't remember who he faced after that. I don't remember any of the feuds, anything that happened after. Just him always saying, I beat those two in the same night. And so, you know, maybe he did have some great matches. I don't remember a single one.
Brock Lesnar's title reign, which was a short one, but after he beat The Rock at SummerSlam.
I want to say, did he not face
Taker and then The Big Show?
And that was it?
Yes.
Why do I feel like I wanted to say Triple H and Hogan? But that must have been before he won the title. I mean, it's too short. And it's not a lot to go off of there. He had great opponents. But as far as the title reign goes, there's really not a lot of meat there.
And last but not least, recently, Becky 2 belts.
That's a tough one. Because didn't she mostly only fight...
No, she was defending both titles on both brands.
Well, I mean, I guess you have to sort of say that's pretty memorable. I'll give it that a yay.
So
Not many people do that, so
there we go, Renegade. Man, still a lot of meat left on the bone. So
oh, you're gone. Yeah, I mean, we talked a lot WWE. We did talk a little WCW. There's a world of champions and championship runs and things that
well, we didn't even talk about any of Booker T's 5-time championships.
Yeah,
even the Harlem Heat tag title run they had in WCW.
Yeah, we didn't even scratch the surface here.
But Renegade, it was a great show again on 6 Degrees. Hell, we not only had Jersey Devil stop by, but we had fucking the boss. We had Mikey Whipwreck stop by, and that's always a pleasure.
Absolutely.
So, well, Renegade, nice talking to you again.
Yes, sir.
Guess I'll be seeing you Thursday.
Yes.
Where
it's an interesting episode of Cult of Burrito.
You, myself, Butt, and Miss Taylor Marie.
Can we get a strike too?
Let's hope not. Well, he is the Renegade. I am the Ritt. And this is 6 Degrees of Ritt and Renegade. Double boinking. Till next time.